Introducing the remarkable archetype, the dangerous gentleman. With a demeanor that commands respect and a hint of potency, he embodies strength tempered by virtue. Though his capabilities could veer towards danger, he channels his power for noble causes, serving others and safeguarding those in need. Rooted in a profound love for both God and humanity, he navigates life with discipline and purpose. In his presence, one witnesses the harmonious blend of power and benevolence, a testament to the true essence of masculinity. Step into the world of the dangerous gentleman, where strength is wielded for righteousness, and discover a captivating embodiment of honor and valor. Most men lead lives of quiet desperation and go to the grave with the song still in them. Henry David Thoreau. For most of my life, that was me. And the first time I heard this quote, it really deeply resonated with me because it described the first 40 years of my life. I lived in a place of quiet desperation, not knowing that there was anything more for me, not knowing that there was something better that I just had to reach out and find. And if I felt that way, I know I'm not the only one, because I'm a pretty common man. There's not anything too special about me. So if I lived in that place of quiet desperation every single day, not knowing there was anything more, then I guarantee you there's a whole bunch more of you out there that have felt that same way and just didn't know what it meant and why you're here. Greetings and welcome to the Dangerous Gentleman podcast. Yes, I am the Dangerous Gentleman. No, I did not give myself that nickname, but I certainly did earn it. Today, we're going to jump into the topic I've been hinting at for the last week, and that is masculinity and testosterone. That quote that I read at the beginning, that applies to a lot of men. Since the day we're born, in modern society, we are taught that there's something wrong with us. I was taught that being a man wasn't cool, that the masculinity that I felt, that I grew up feeling, that there was something wrong with it. And I needed to get in touch with something else. And then I needed to leave that piece of me behind. Well, to do that is not only denying thousands of years of history, our biological makeup. It literally is who we are as men. Men are masculine. Now, the whole idea of toxic masculinity, that's what we're going to try to tear apart a little bit today, because that phrase gets thrown around just willy-nilly, and everyone's like, oh, that's just toxic masculinity. Oh, that's toxic masculinity. Oh, that's toxic masculinity. And they simply point to a man who's acting like a man, and they say that that's toxic behavior. What I want to try to explain and help you understand is that being masculine isn't toxic. Being feminine isn't toxic. Being who you are, being who God created you to be, both as an individual, but also as a man, that there's nothing wrong with that. It is who you are, and to deny it is to deny your creation. It is to put yourself in a place of desperation where you are trying to become something that you're not, right? And so I want to get into some definitions today, and we're going to tear this apart a little bit. So I have some notes that I want to actually read today. And so the first thing I want to read is the definition that I just Googled the phrase toxic masculinity. What does toxic masculinity mean? Here's the definition that I found on Google. Toxic masculinity is a term used to describe the harmful aspects of masculinity that are socially destructive and can negatively impact men, women, and society. Characteristics of toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity is characterized by its traits such as violence, dominance, emotional illiteracy, sexual entitlement, and hostility to femininity. There's a whole lot of words in there, and they don't really help you define much of who that is. Basically, toxic masculinity is being a man, right? That's how it's been defined these days. Is toxic masculinity is all the things that define us. Now, I'm not a proponent of being violent, of dominating others, of being emotionally illiterate, right? Or sexual entitlement. But like, if you break those terms down, it's just being a man, right? Violence, sometimes violence is necessary, right? If someone breaks into your house and is threatening your family, you need to get violent as a man. In that case, violence is a virtue. Dominance, God calls us to take dominion of the earth. We are supposed to be dominant. We are the dominant race on the planet. And as men, God called us to lead. So we are supposed to take control. We are supposed to take dominion. Emotional literacy. Do you really want someone who runs their life by their feelings and runs their life by their emotions to be in charge of military decisions? To have their finger on the nuclear button? To be responsible for deploying men into battle? For making decisions that require that violence that we already talked about? Do you really want people who are going to be governed by their emotions, or do you want people who are going to be governed by logic, by reason, and by a protective instinct? Maybe sometimes denying those emotions, right? Maybe sometimes putting those emotions aside and making the right decision no matter what, even if you call that emotional illiteracy. Maybe there's a time and a place for that. They call it emotional literacy. I call it being able to live outside of your emotions and to not let your emotions rule you. And that's what men are better at. That's what being a man is. When you wake up in the morning and you feel like shit, physically, emotionally, in every way possible, men have the ability to get up and go and do what they need to do and execute the plan no matter what. But we're taught day after day now through the media and through television and anything and everything around us that that's a bad characteristic. That maybe sometimes it's okay to back off. Maybe sometimes it's okay to let the emotions win. But sometimes, most of the time, if you're a man, the best thing for you to do is to get up and go. And there's virtue in that. There's nobility in being able to push through and do what you need to do regardless, right? Even if it requires violence, even if it requires putting those emotions aside and making the best decision for you and your family, or you and your town, or you and your state, or you and your country. We can't be ruled by the emotions of the day, because emotions change every single day. Emotions change every single minute, every single hour. We're constantly bombarded by emotions, and we can't allow ourselves to be ruled by that. So these things, violence, dominance, emotional literacy, hostility to femininity, sexual entitlement, like if you just take those same principles and concepts and you just define them a little bit different way, those are actually good things, right? I'm not saying that we're supposed to be hostile to femininity, but you know what? Sometimes the best decision doesn't have to do with the emotions. Women tend to make decisions based on emotions. And sometimes that's the right call. But most of the time, the best decision that's going to move your life and your family and your country and the world forward is not based around emotions. It's based around the best thing, right? And if we're constantly succumbing to the emotions of one person or a few people, that's not good in the long term, right? So you need men to be able to separate themselves from the emotional decisions and make those tough calls when they need to be made. Men want women to be this way. Men want women to be emotional. Men want women to make the emotional decisions because we need help with those kinds of things, right? But when it comes down to the final decision needing to be made, you got to get that emotion out of the way a lot of times, right? And if you're constantly being bombarded and you're making a decision based on how you feel in the moment, or someone tells you a sob story and you make a decision based on that sob story, chances are it's going to be the wrong one. So let's talk about some definitions, right? So I don't believe in the idea and the concept of toxic masculinity. Toxic behavior is toxic behavior whether you're a man or whether you're a woman. Why doesn't anyone ever talk about toxic femininity? All anyone ever talks about is toxic masculinity. I could get into I could put on my tinfoil hat and talk about why the powers that be don't like masculinity and they want to push us all towards these feminine ideals. But that's the topic for another day. For right now, I'm going to try to just dispel this myth of toxic masculinity, because like I said, toxic behavior is toxic behavior. If you're being an asshole, it doesn't matter if you're a man. It doesn't matter if you're being a woman. If you're being an asshole, you should get called out on it. And if you're a man, you should get called out on it by other men. A big chunk of human history. When men got out of line, other men put them back in line. Other men took them out behind the woodshed, knocked them around, taught them a lesson, drug them back inside the bar, and shared a beer with them. And most of the time that man learned. And most of that time, that man changed his life around and became a better version, became a better man, became a better citizen, a better husband, and a better father. Because men were allowed to be men. Men were allowed to teach other men the lessons that they needed to learn. Nowadays, you get arrested for assault for those kinds of things, right? You get arrested for assault for calling someone a bad name, for calling out their bad behavior, for telling them that they're wrong. Nowadays, people are so sensitive because everyone's in touch with their emotions, right? We have like this emotional literacy thing that it talks about. Sometimes that's a good thing, right? Sometimes you need to be able to separate yourself out. You need to be like, when someone calls you out, you need to be able to analyze that and look at your behavior and not take it as a personal insult. Maybe that person just wants you to be better. Maybe that person just wants you to be better. Sometimes they don't, but most of the time they do. They just want you to be better. So what does being masculine actually mean? So here's a modern definition. I'm going to read the modern definition, and then I'm going to read an older definition, and then we're going to talk about the difference between the two. So, modern definition. Considered to be characteristics of men, stereotypically masculine traits, characteristics, marked by having qualities, features, etc., traditionally associated with men. That's the modern definition. Here's the old definition. This was Webster's first dictionary and written in 1828. Masculine. Having the qualities of a man, strong, robust, resembling man, coarse, opposed to delicate or soft, bold, brave, as in masculine spirit or courage. So one thing that you notice in that first definition, it just says considered to be characteristic of men, stereotypically masculine traits and characteristics. What it doesn't mention is what those are. Right? So this modern definition of masculinity is just being a man. But it doesn't tell you what that means. It doesn't give you a list of characteristics on what being a man looks like. Right? It just says masculinity is being a man. By that definition, whatever I think a man looks like, I can and should act like. Now, everyone gets an idea in their head because it uses the term stereotype, right? Everyone has a stereotype of what men look like. I don't know exactly the date of this definition, but it was rewritten in the last couple of years. But it's not giving you anything to look for. It's not giving you any kind of character traits. It's not giving you any kind of code of conduct of how to behave as a man. Just act like a man. That doesn't help. That leads to quiet desperation because, oh, be a man. Okay. So we look around at other men. Sometimes we have good role models and sometimes we don't have good role models, but there's no definition here. And as we've seen over the course of the last couple of decades, the last century, what it means to be a man has been slowly and systematically deteriorating over time. Sabotaged, if you really want to get down to what my opinion is. What being a man is has been sabotaged, intentionally changed, intentionally softened, and now they look at the behavior of how men used to act, and they call that toxic masculinity. It's not toxic. But then you go back in time to the 1800s when this second definition was written, what it meant to be masculine, having the qualities of a man, strong, robust, physically strong in character, robust in nature, like bold. Maybe you use the word aggressive, but just having a character that people notice, right? You are a man and people know it. There's no mistaking it. You're strong. Lead. You walk in the room and people pay attention. That's what men are supposed to do. Some men do that more than others. Some men are quieter, and there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with being quietly robust. But you should be able to walk in a room and everyone knows, oh, that's a man. For most of my life, I was weak. Most of my life, I was quiet. Most of my life, I was the guy who came in and sat in the corner and no one paid attention to. No one cared if I was there or not. And I was desperate inside to have someone recognize me, right? But I was taught that being those things, that there was somehow something negative. There was something wrong with being those things. There was something wrong with being strong. There was something wrong with grunting a little bit when I lifted weights, or screaming when I was angry, or punching a tree when I was frustrated. The Bible says to be angry and sin not. I talked about that in an episode or two back. The Bible says to be angry and sin not. Being angry and harnessing that anger and harnessing that dark energy is one of the most powerful things about being a man, is to be able to take that aggression, channel it for good. And if you ask me, the world needs a whole lot more of that, right? Who do people call when the shit really hits the fan? Do they call the guy down the street who's in touch with his emotions? Who hasn't seen a gym a day in his life? No. They call the firefighter. The guy that poses in the calendar and he's got rippling muscles and he's brave. Not fearless, brave. Because all men are afraid, but brave ones do it anyway. So, strong, robust, coarse, rough, a little rough around the edges, calluses on their hands, maybe calluses on their emotions a little bit. David Goggins talks about being callous to your emotions and being able to put those emotions aside and be able to continue and execute anyway, to put that stuff aside. Get some calluses on your hands. Get some tough spots. Build up some scar tissue as a man, some emotional and physical scar tissue in a healthy way. Of course, you can take that to extremes. But that's not what I'm talking about. People have taken the idea, oh, well, you shouldn't take it to extremes, to mean that you shouldn't have it at all, opposed to delicate or soft. That doesn't mean that we're opposed to women, but women have their place. Women belong by our side. But when the battle is being fought, when tough decisions need to be made, when someone needs to climb to the top of the wall and fight the battle, you want someone who's not worried about whether or not he's got the right pillow or if his shoes don't fit right. You want the guy that's willing to march all night long without food, without sleep, when he's tired. You want that man. You want that being. And most of the time, that's men. And it fills something inside of us that nothing else can. When men do hard things, it fills that place of desperation. When people call us out to do hard things, and we go and we do them, even if we fail, but we gave it our all and we did it, and we did the hard thing, it fills something in our soul that nothing else will ever fill. But no, we're taught these days, we put our kids in public school, we put our little boys in public school, and we tell them to sit still. We tell them to be quiet. We tell them to be nice. And then we tell them to sit still and learn this set of facts for the day. These are the set of facts. And then the kids, the little boys, are sent home, and sadly, Most parents put them in front of a screen. They put them in front of a phone or a TV that they allow those children to be entertained by a screen. And so they stare like this all day. They sit at school and they're forced to sit still and pay attention. Then they go home and they stare at a screen. And then we wonder why they're rambunctious and why they don't want to sit still. And so then what do? Then we call the school counselor. Parents, teachers call the school counselor, and the school counselor calls the doctor, and the little boy gets put on Ritalin or some other mind-altering drug to help them to be able to sit still and pay attention. No, little boys need to get out in nature and play and roughhouse and maybe beat each other up a little bit. I had 3 brothers and lots of little boy friends, and we used to just beat each other. We used to challenge each other to contests of toughness. We used to go take our shoes off in Arizona, so temperatures well into the 110 degrees, and we used to go find rocks to stand on barefoot. And whoever was the toughest would stay on their rock the longest, and they would be declared the winner. We used to do that kind of stuff all the time. We had recess. We went outside and played. In the summertime, my parents literally were the parents. My mom would like, see you guys. And we'd go run around all day outside. We'd ride our bikes. We'd run around in the desert. We would come back and we would drink out of the garden hose. Yes, we were those kids. Yes, those were our parents. Did I ever question my parents' love for me? No, because when I came running back home at noon because I was hungry, there was a sandwich. There was a whole pile of sandwiches for me and my friends, right? To go get refueled to go finish out the rest of the day. But now parents send their kids off to public school and then they get them home and they put them on a screen. And the screen teaches those little boys how to live. That screen teaches them what being a man looks like. And it's not this. It's not strong, robust, coarse, opposed to delicate or soft. They're taught that their emotions are the most important thing. They're taught that their comfort is the most important thing. And if they're uncomfortable or if it's not fair, that there's something wrong. It's not true. Men are strong. Men are robust. Men are a little bit coarse. Men are generally opposed to things that are delicate or soft, except their wife. Or when they have a little girl. That little girl, when I became the father of a little girl, it changed me. Because you watch one of these big, bold guys, and you watch them, and they'll go lift a bunch of weights, they'll go fight fires, charge into a burning building, and all that stuff. And then their little girl comes up to them and says, "Daddy," and he just puts on the tutu, and he plays ballet with his little girl. Is that so toxic? Is that so bad? No, that is not so bad. We need men who are not afraid to be masculine. The world needs it. If you pay attention to what is going on in the world is looking for men to stand up and to be tough and to take stands and to not let other people pull their bullshit. Right? We got migrants everywhere. We got all these LGBTQ people who are pushing their agenda on people, right? We got all this crazy stuff. Border crises and the economy is not good. And we're supposed to sit around and let that happen? That's what we're told. We're told that it's noble, that it's okay, that we're just supposed to let all this stuff happen. We're supposed to let our country be taken over. We're supposed to let other people come in and take advantage of us. When our instinct as men is to protect ourselves, protect our family, and to protect our country. But we are constantly bombarded with messages that tell us that that is not okay. That there's something wrong with us if we feel that way. And I'm here to tell you today, men, it's okay to be men. It's okay to desire to go to the gym and strap a bunch of weight on your back and squat that shit and grunt and listen to some heavy metal and just go for it. And if you fail, you fail, right? I always said that if I died when I was under a squat, before they call the emergency room, before they call the ambulance, stack a couple more plates on there. Make it look like I was squatting a little bit more. It's okay to be that way. It's okay to be a little aggressive. It's okay to grunt and scream at the gym. It's okay to do that in the presence of other men. It's okay to get crazy. It's okay to have a big truck and to hit that gas pedal and hear the sound of that engine and go. It's okay to drive a fast car every once in a while and crank up the music. As men, that's what we do. And ultimately, our reliance must be on God. All of this that I'm talking about, God made us this way. He designed men and women to be this way. Men are supposed to tap into this. This is how He designed us. This is the way the world is supposed to work. And when it doesn't work that way, then it just doesn't work. And that's where we are right now in the world. We're told that one whole half of our biology, of our genetic makeup and who we are supposed to be, there's something wrong with it. So it's no wonder that we live lives of quiet desperation, because we're told that who we are and who we are instinctually, that there's something wrong with it. 1 Corinthians 16, verse 13 says, "Be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong." This is the Apostle Paul addressing men. Stand firm. Act like men. Be strong. Be watchful. This is who we are supposed to be. This is our biblical call. And when we try to deny it, when other people try to tell us that it's not okay, they're systematically beating us down, contrary to God's nature in our lives. It's no wonder our testosterone has tanked in this country. At least since 1999, our testosterone levels as men have been steadily dropping. Each year since at least 1999, and there's lots of people who point to evidence that go back even 30 or 40 years of a steady decrease in testosterone. It's because we eat like shit. We drink processed foods. We sit in cubicles. We're not encouraged to exercise. We're not encouraged to go outside. Sunlight stimulates testosterone production. Lifting heavy weights, especially squats, it's interesting. Heavy squats are the number one exercise for the production of testosterone. Intense exercise, so sunshine, consumption of plenty of protein, animal protein specifically, intense exercise, heavy weights, and plenty of sleep. Those are the things that boost testosterone more than anything else. And those are all things that we are encouraged not to. Don't go out in the sun. You'll get skin cancer. Don't lift heavy weights. It'll stress you out. Sit in the cubicle and work. Right. And work 16, 18 hours a day and not get sleep. Right. They're telling us, again, this is a tinfoil hat. They're telling us these things because maybe they want our testosterone down, because what is one of the main tenets of low testosterone? One of the main symptoms of low testosterone is increased compliance. So you drop your testosterone levels in men, and they're going to be more likely to listen to what you have to say on the news, social media, all that stuff. So get outside, eat plenty of red meat, get some good sleep, lift heavy weights and do some intense exercise, spend time with your family, allow that testosterone to grow, right? Do the things that naturally build it. And then when you feel the testosterone, it's okay to punch that gas pedal and go a little. It's okay to yell and scream a little bit. Sometimes, a lot of times. It's okay to punch that tree. It's okay to listen to some loud music. It's okay to tap into the dark side. In a lot of ways, this episode is a follow-up to the episode I did about tapping into your dark side. right? So don't be afraid to be masculine. It's not toxic. There's that saying that is very pertinent these days that says bad times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create bad times. It's a cycle that you can see throughout history. And right now, the world needs some strong men. The world needs some good men because the world is looking a little weak, a little shabby, a little torn up around the edges. And if we don't get it turned around a little bit, a lot, then we're just going to keep going down this road. And who is the key to that? Men. You men. Me, I'm talking to myself. Masculinity is a good thing. That's all I have to say.
So if you like this content, please give it a rating, a review, and share it with your friends. Also, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about me and what I'm all about and what I can maybe do for you, check out my website at thedangerousgentleman.org. That's thedangerousgentleman.org. Thank you for listening.